Alright. Gotta love those references.
Yeah, we were just speaking of all the Zelda games, and there we go.
Oh boy.
Oh
Oh boy.
The question is, did you call it completely correctly and only going to see a 20-bomb escape, or what?
Oh dear. Let's just see if this actually pans out like we want it to be. At the very least, it does mean if you get a ton of bombs, you could buy some extra for it. Nope, it is Cane of Burner. Okay.
Ooh.
Visually the worst item to get out of these.
Let's hope a little bit if you know where all the magic drops in the escape are. But
Ooh, that's significantly better, however.
yeah, that's definitely worth switching to.
Yep. Alright, so never mind, this is not a Cane of Burner, this is a fake out seed, and we're gonna start with the Fire Rod instead. We'll see. It's pretty good, I have to say. Both items are able to get bombs with though, because with a Fire Rod you only have 8 shots and you have to kill a minimum of 4 enemies with it. And with the Cane of Burner you have to just really watch your magic, unless you spend a lot of time extra magic drops in the sewers. eLmaGus not going to lift up any pots to try and get stuff there. That's interesting.
Yeah, just seems to be really counting on what he has. Just really wants to get through here as quickly as possible, I guess.
Alright, this is a fiery seed to begin with, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly nice to see, because I've seen the opposite happen to the fire source as well, the thing that really keeps the seed blocks up for ages.
Oh,
it's nice to see
there
it
we
change
go.
that. Oh my.
So
What a
it's
well-used pot.
It's a 50% chance whether or not... Oh, Zephyr's not even going to get it, okay. So, we don't know whether or not that item pool is shared between multiple enemies here. It could end up being the case that Zephyr just doesn't get another chance to get that particular bomb drop. Because if the blue guard is in a different drop price pack than every other enemy in this game, you're never going to see those 8 bombs.
We do see the green guards, for example, are on a different price pack because their first price here was 10 arrows rather than 8 bombs.
Right, and Zephyr didn't get an item off the blue guard, did off the green, so that is, he won't be able to kill the guard for it. The short sword guard, however, could be on a different one as well. So I think there's, 5 different price packs total? Hey, fairy. Well, no Death Walks first here.
Yeah, and I do believe 5 price packs is accurate.
Yeah, because there's 4 that you would normally see, and then 1 that you only see if you hammer a frozen enemy in vanilla. You can already see Zephyr has only got 2 shots left on the Fire Rod just now. He's been using it very freely here, and
I imagine
might
he's
have
going
to
to make use of the... I imagine he's going to make use of the magic... the pots with magic you can find in the escape sequence.
Yeah, quite a few of those are really far out of the way though, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
So yeah, this is something I've been learning to do a fair bit more in my own escapes recently, is just kill as many things as you can imagine killing here. Because, with the blue gun stuff, you never really know who is going to be able to give you the bomb.
Actually, it looks like Zephyr also picked up 8 bombs somewhere. He must have snuck in a kill when we weren't paying attention.
Alright then. Well, at least
So
that's
we're
not
on,
something...
So at least they're on equal footing in that regard.
But Zephyr's got 9 bombs now because of killing another short sword guard there. One bomb makes all the difference.
That definitely puts him in the lead, especially with the 5 rupee lead as well.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing here is that if he somehow does run out of magic, he won't need to pick up any more at this point, having already got the bombs. But if he does somehow run out of magic, he has a standby weapon to use now. The bombs are not ideal to kill the rat, but at least you can have a go with it. Nice snake RNG there. The 2 snakes tend to come down that room in such a way that you can't actually get past them without taking a hit, but not in this case.
Yeah, in general, cooperative snakes were better runners so far. They got through the hallway before this cleanly as well.
Yeah. So see how nice is the rat today? Yeah, pretty good. The only way that gets any better is if he runs straight at you, but you don't expect that really.
No, you definitely don't. It's actually really annoying if it does do so, if you're trying this with bombs, because you don't expect it, and then it suddenly runs into you, and you're like, wait, damn. I bloody well missed the rat.
Be a nice pickup on the way out here, getting the full magic back. Very good. Sets him up nicely for Moldon Cave later, actually, if there's no other weapons found.
Alternatively, it sets him up really nicely to be able to check out a couple of different tree pools there.
Yeah. We got cooperative rats in this thing this time. I swear, in almost every single one of my own seeds, those rats just decide that they're going to stay in front of the door all times, and there's no way of getting past them without hitting them with the sword that you don't have. So, hey, that plus 10 bomb expansion is coming in handy at the moment, though, getting more than 10 to start with here, because of all of the bomb drops in the chests. Alright, so I don't imagine eLmaGus is going to go up and chat Lumberjack at this point, as it looks like Zephyr's using Cane of Burner quite freely at the end of this. Speaking of rats in the way of doors, just to spite me on that one, surely. As it looks like we're going to get resynced up here. To add. Yeah, Zephyr's still got that one bomb lead though.
Yep, it's probably going to keep that for the rest of the game. I'm going to make all the difference.
Is that small magic coming out of the tree there for Hera?
I wouldn't go down to bad to pull, honestly.
No, not really. I didn't even get a chance to see what was on the other side there. It can't have been that important up on where the mushroom normally is.
Yeah, I think it was a piece of heart. Which isn't bad per se when you've only got 3 hearts, but on the other hand, it's just a quarter of a heart, so...
Yeah, speaking on hearts, it looks like that's what we're getting from the bush crab today as well.
So we won't be seeing the continued bush crab prize because there's no way to catch 7 of those in time.
No, not in that particular spot, definitely. Also only looks like a bomb expansion from the Lumberjacks, so won't be seeing that anytime soon. Yeah, Magic Powder's not a bad pickup. It doesn't really do a whole lot by itself right now. It'll be much more remarkable when we have the Hammer or Titansmith Mirror, depending on what shows up first.
And it's going to pay off late. It's also going to just be a handy safety item throughout the game.
That was so close to being vanilla there. 3 red rupees in the heart container. Oh, well, there it is. Okay, so vanilla, there are 4 red rupees in those 4 chests at the bottom, and then a heart piece in the bomb wall there. Here, it was a heart container, but it was still basically the same, just in a slightly different order. Yeah, that's the first time I've seen that, actually.
I think I've seen it once before, but yeah, it doesn't happen all that often, and it really lines up that way, especially since these early locations tend to love having actual progression in them.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty good. Getting silvers before the bow is always interesting.
Powder in the net already, and a bottle.
Sword! Hey.
Sword's always a good find.
Yeah, so long as you don't find a second one, though, because that really early lamp is kind of making Agadim a potential play. So you're gonna hope to not find another one before you're done getting Dark World access at this point. Other than that, though, not really anything in Kakariko here.
No, just a bunch of things that are really convenient to have, but nothing that really brings you anywhere so far.
Right. Nothing from Sick Kid either, but it's always good to get that out of the way straight away. So, here again, just a heart piece. So I guess this just means Mini Moldon Cave is going to be loaded, right?
Yeah, it must be. Because, well, we gotta find some progression somewhere.
Right, you gotta find something. I think that was just a red rupee.
It definitely looked like something not particularly valuable. I didn't even take note of what it was. Just one of those cases of like, oh, that's worthless.
Yeah.
You know exactly how that feels, I think.
Yep. And that, once again, just nothing there either. Okay, so Kakariko gives a sword only, but that's still fine in the sense that the sword will help a lot for Showdown Cave at the very least. Because even with having a full magic bar, those things can be annoying to hit with the fire rod.
Yeah, so having a backup option is always really good.
So now we'll see what we get draining the dam here. A heart container's not bad when the crabs do lots of damage to you. So I wouldn't be too upset about getting a heart container at the start here.
No. If it's one that, especially if it's one that you're just gonna pick up for essentially free anyway, because it sounds like you're going to skip that chest.
Looks like it was just 20 rupees in the library there. Guy Zephyr showing us it for a bit longer and going straight in. Oh, that is something good. Ah, there's the hook shot.
It is something good, but oddly, the hook shot not being a really good progression item normally doesn't actually unlock anything right now.
Not just yet. As eLmaGus making another interesting play. I saw a rival do this in a race I commentated as well, where he's basically just going straight for Gina here, which is interesting. Zephyr getting a little bit disappointed by not having anything on the race game there, but just going straight for it without checking it first. A little bit of a disappointment, but what can you do?
Honestly, I don't actually mind this play to just go into Agnes Cave right after the dam, because it's as close as you're gonna get if you're not gonna just leave it off forever.
Doesn't really yield anything this time, unfortunately, but I have seen races where that has been the progression point where you've had to go to. So I finally get a map check. 3 crystals. Easton was the red one.
Yep, I can confirm that.
And jumped on by that. What even is that thing? It's just like an oversized rat.
I think it's a rabbit of some kind, but
yeah. So Zephyr looks like he actually drained the dam first and then went otherwise. It's a really minor thing, but the only reason I would do it the other way around is because if you happen to find boots in that chest, you can at least dash when you come back out. That is really, really minor. You can see just how annoying these mini moldoms are to hit horizontally. Oh, and there's a glove, so that gets us up Death Mountain. So Zephyr's going to be really pleased to see that here as well.
yeah, the glove and hook shot together is going to be really nice. It opens up a lot of locations already.
Yeah. Zephyr having a little bit more trouble with Moldon just camping him in the corner here.
Yeah, they're always really rude little critters.
So, eLmaGus making a choice to go for Ice Rod Cave here, which is generally a location that if you give people this amount of progress at the start, there's a temptation to skip this, because Death Mountain has so many items that you can get right now. But you do that, and then it's the Schrodinger's situation. You do that, and then there's something here. But if you check it, there's nothing. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ice Rod Cave is just such an inconvenient location.
And that's why you don't skip it.
Yeah, that is really big, and it makes that mountain even more attractive now.
Absolutely, because they have a fire source too, so you can actually go ahead and get up there. I mean, they have 2 fire sources, but the lamp lets you get up there for nothing. You've got gloveless lamps, so that's how you're supposed to get there. And you've got the hook shot to get all the stuff across, and then you've got the mirror. You can even do Tower Hera too, even if it requires basement. Which makes it more interesting that eLmaGus is actually going to check Sahashral first. Wonder if he's going to dip Easton too, or if this is just to get this out of the way.
Yeah, I have no idea. It'll be interesting to see.
There's Blue Mail, not too bad. Doesn't really help on Death Mountain, and it looks like it was just to check this. Okay. Now we see, again, the red crystal Eastern, 2 crystals otherwise. Zephyr is actually going to make the same play, but I wonder if there is going to be divergence there, if he's also to only check Sahashala or go into Eastern anyway. So, I feel like if eLmaGus was going to check Lumberjack Cave, this would probably be the best time to do it, because the mountain is the obvious destination, but it would make sense to just check that on the way up as well. This is the closest you're ever going to get to the Lumberjack, unless you can mirror later on, I guess, from Bumper Cave or something.
I mean, they do have the mirror, so he might just be saving it for checking it alongside Bumper Cave and all that, along with possibly even waiting for the boots if he can manage that.
Zephyr hasn't save quit, so it looks like the Eastern check is going to happen here. Very interesting. If this pays off with something that's going to be really big, because the temptation to just go straight up the mountain is difficult to ignore, and we'll just have to see if it works, because I want it to work, because that'd be great, just seeing the divergent routes here actually paying off the stuff, but we'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nothing on Spectacle Rock itself. I did see only 20 rupees off the old man, but that's fine. You gotta go through there anyway. Was that? What even was that?
I think that was the cave.
Okay. So, because of not having the hammer here, what I imagine eLmaGus is going to do is he's probably going to end up doing Tower of Hera, then coming back down and getting that cape before going over to East Death Mountain. That's what I imagine is going to happen.
I imagine so. It does make the most sense overall for routing too, because you don't want to have to go back up that long ladder if you don't have to. I mean, there is the bomb jump, of course, but it's kind of tricky, and I don't know. Actually, eLmaGus might know it now I think about it.
Of course, you know what this means, right? That is the cape with a sword, and we have the lamp, so that is the Ganon play on there. There's the Moon Pearl.
There's the Moon Pearl too, yep.
So,
and it's also worth mentioning, we do have the gloves and the hook shot, and while obviously that means that mountain access, it also means they can actually get from the pyramid all the way to the west of the Dark World.
Right, that's what I was gonna get to, actually, is that with the hookshot and the glove here, there's no way that you can just, like, lock yourself in only parts of darkness in Dark World here, so, if we don't find a hammer or the other glove over on East Death Mountain.
Yep, it's looking relatively likely, and it's gonna be purely for the Dark World access at that point.
Well, it doesn't look like ZephyrBlayze is finding too much here.
He did find a bunch of rupees, so he's in a better position to check Zora if so inclined, but that's about it so far in Eastern Palace.
Yeah, Zora himself would be in logic because of the glove, but everything else around Zora would not be, so that can make it a bit of a hard sell, even though...
Yeah, especially since I checked the Ice Rod Cave already and didn't fake Flipper at that time, so going back for just that now is not very attractive.
Right,
of course, if they
it could work.
Yeah, of course it could work, and especially since they're in this situation now, well, we don't know for certain yet, but they might be in a situation where they have to consider either doing that or doing Agadim, and in that case the temptation may be very big, just in case they pick up the hammer or another glove through sequence break.
I didn't see whatsoever what Zephyr picked up in that last one, because it freeze-framed over that.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
We'll have to see what that is later on, but doesn't seem to have changed the main idea at this point. Death Mountain is the only play to make at the moment. Alright. Oh, hitting Motom on the way down. That's a pretty good one. You don't get to see that too often.
Yeah, usually what happens if you try that is that you jump into Moldorm and you just end up shooting all over the place. So it's interesting to see it actually work for once.
Good timing on Magus's part. We have, yeah, just Can of Burner to try and simplify that a little bit. The Cape would also do the same thing, where you just become immune to Moldorm, like from him running into you. Still got to watch your sword though, because if you hold your sword out doing that, as eLmaGus did, you notice he could still be bonked away if Moldorm hit the sword and not him. So. Alright, doesn't look like basement is being even considered here, so I imagine we found both the items, right?
We had a Vanilla Big Key in Tower of Hera actually.
Oh,
so
Vanilla Big Key, okay, never mind.
He is going to pick up that cape though.
Just trying to see if Zephyr actually found it at the time, so... Ah, well. And a save quit out, okay. Must consider that to be faster. I guess it probably is. Don't do the bomb jump.
Yeah, actually have no idea if it's quicker or not.
I mean, those mini Moldorms in that kit are really terrible to deal with because of being diagonals, so... So Zephyr going to get the cape first, which is also perfectly fine. Just going to drop down here. Might consider not doing Tower of Hera immediately, just because it'd be closer to the bottom here, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what he decides to do.
Yeah, these mini Moldorms can be really annoying though. Like, mostly cooperative this time, but they can just be so awkward to do over. Now, it looks like Tower of Hera is going to get done first, which is fine. Double hearts.
Yeah, it does look like Zephyr is opting to go back up the mountain to head to Tower of Hera first. And it does make a lot of sense, I suppose. It's a crystal dungeon, he has to do it anyway, and he knows he can full clear the place.
Yep. Oh, there's flippers. So, Zora maybe? The problem with that, though, is that eLmaGus, I mean, he can Houlihan if he knows the graveyard setup for it, but he doesn't currently have the money to do Zora, and there's only 4 potential other places before having to check Zora himself, which would get a 300, and he would need a 300 at this point, too. There's not enough 100s in the prize pool to allow for that. Rock's been annoying as always.
Yeah, it wouldn't be linked to the past if those things weren't annoying.
So Zephyr picking up his Moon Pearl as we head towards the basement for him here.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of excitement going on both sides right now.
Yeah, the so-called walk of shame having to go through Spiral Cave without the boots.
Yeah.
Always
That's
funny when it actually turns out the boots are here though.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I never skip this.
Not this time, however. Okay, so it's either Aghanim or Zor. And I think it looks like it's not just yet. Okay, so hopefully, for eLmaGus' sake, does actually find 300 here. Because this could be kind of nasty if it turns out the Zora actually has the hammer or the second glove here. It's like Zephyr's just taking a little bit easy here, but he's popped quite a bit by the stuff on the way up. So, down to just 1 heart here. Yeah, opting to take the Death Warp instead of the mirror so he can have more hearts back. That's, would be good, except... for the fairy.
Yeah, the fairy they picked up back in Escape. It's very easy to forget that.
Looks like only 5 rupees from the hobo here as well. That's not good for eLmaGus. He needs the 300 here.
Yeah, at this point it's looking relatively likely that Zora might end up being an orphan spot for eLmaGus.
And this will at least be one thing that Zephyr can do that eLmaGus wouldn't have been able to, assuming there is 100 here. Because the money that was in Eastern Palace is something that Zephyr has picked up so far.
Yeah, that 300 extra rupees he found in there makes a lot of difference.
Oh, but the Titans meant save. Okay, so this is not an Aga Seed. It's kind of funny, actually, because if you did do the Fate Flipper stuff, you wouldn't have been able to get that until you got up the mountain, because you can't get that without the Moon Pearl in there.
Yep. Well, unless we find Zora selling the boots, then you could go back and set up the boots water walk and...
Oh, that would take so
that's a
long,
little
though.
bit... Yeah, that is a little bit overly convoluted.
Like, I'm a fan of the water wall, don't get me wrong, but that would take so much effort. Looks like Zephyr's not been counting his items here, though, because he did get the second item from the small chest there. It was a green potion. The first one was the Moon Pearl down at the bottom, so... Doubling back round, getting the compass out of the big chest, and eLmaGus going right back up for Hookshot Cave here. Do not blame him in the slightest.
Yeah, this is really good information learning. Especially if he checks the Dark World map right now.
Pendant TR, it's Green Pendant TR, and Misery Maya. That's interesting pair right there.
Yeah, and Skullwoods was also a pendant, and I believe, if I saw correctly, Palace of Darkness was the other 5/6 crystal.
So you're telling me there's a chance of Fire Rod being like useless outside of Ice Palace then?
Yep, that's looking likely, and we found that real early.
I mean, it's a good thing that they did find it in that sense, because Fire Rodless seeds are not very fun.
No, they're not. It's
Oh,
really annoying.
there's the money and the bow. The bow's really good for eLmaGus to see here because he hasn't gone to Easton. So now Easton is going to be a single dip clear. So that is really...
Actually, with this particular layout of items, we're actually really close to being, and I definitely didn't catch that medallion, did you?
I want to say it was Aoife, but it was so quick to see that I'm not 100% certain on that.
But with this particular combination of items, we're actually really close to being in a position where we can just start hunting down all the crystals and hoping for that second sword for Ganon along the way.
Yeah, because not having... Oh, there's the second shield. Not having to do Mire and not having to do Turtle Rock saves a lot of items there. You don't need the Ice Rod, you don't need the Flute, you don't need any medallions whatsoever. And most of those can be in the most ridiculous of places in this game. So
the things we're really looking for is the hammer, of course, and some way of getting into Desert Palace, and then maybe the boots if Desert requires it.
yeah, so you do still need you might still need the flute for that, but you either need a flute or the book, and you will need, as you say, the hammer, because the hammer is required for at least 4 dungeons, so not getting away with that. And other than that, yeah, it's surprisingly really close for where we're at. But this is what happens when you don't need the awkward items that Maya are.
Yeah, exactly.
required.
All those little, basically one-off items for just a singular dungeon.
And the interesting thing with that is that not too many of the items can actually even be in those dungeons here. Like, the hammer could be Misery Maya, but it can't be Turtle Rock because you need the hammer to get into Turtle Rock. Cane of Samaria might not even be necessary to seed if you don't need right side GT, but if you do, then that could be a big sticking point, because that could be anywhere it wants to be apart from Turtle Rock.
And it's good to actually make a large difference in the race overall if one of our runners ends up finding the Cane of Samara and the other doesn't, and it ends up being required for the GT big key and nothing else.
Right, because unlike the hookshot, there's nothing stopping Cane of Samaria from being really early, really like deep into GT. That's the second fairy that we have here. So 2 fairies and a green potion out of the bottle so far. That's a pretty generous seed.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent haul.
And eLmaGus going to take the chance on Peace down here.
Honestly,
Don't blame.
I don't blame him at all, especially with this particular seed, as it has been. Like, the really big item he's looking for right now that really unlocks most everything else he needs to do is the hammer.
Yeah.
So holding off on this place just for that one singular location you might not be able to do doesn't make much sense, really.
Right, and we could come up with nightmare scenarios of how this bites him, but honestly, that just does not seem likely. So, as you say, given the way this seed is set up right now, this makes way too much sense not to do. It's nice to see him have the hookshot instead of the bombs out here, because the hookshot will let him... Oh, that's not a good sign, though. Hookshot does let him speed a lot of these rooms up, where normally not having the boots would be a really bad thing. But you can hookshot so many of the stuff in here, and it's only one menu transition away from regular bombs that you need as the next item in here. So it's not even a long menu to look for that.
No, it's definitely a time save overall to just spend a tiny little bit of time menuing back and forth just to be able to hook from torch to torch or similar things like that.
I didn't actually catch, what was Zephyr doing on the Ice Palace Island there? The Waterfall Fairy one. Not Waterfall Wishing. No, that's that one. The Rupee Fairy. What was he doing up there?
I'm not certain. Maybe he thought he had the Titan's Mitts already and wanted to go into Ice Palace, I don't know.
Alright, so we will get to see this time what is on Zora, as obviously Zephyr has picked up the Titan's Mitt, but it would be a little bit silly to not do this here. The one thing for eLmaGus, though, is he can, if he does do Catfish, he can end up mirroring and checking Zora then if he chooses to. It is really far out of the way, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know, actually.
Wow, that is the biggest ripoff. As eLmaGus gets Quake here, the biggest ripoff I have seen in a while.
Yeah, and apparently, if our tracker is correct, and I have no reason to doubt its correctness, Quake is actually the medallion we need for Turtle Rock.
Okay, Quake and... Yeah, I didn't get to see eLmaGus' end properly, so Zephyr is not going up the mountain straight away. I don't blame him for that, because there's a lot more that you can theoretically do down in the Dark World proper, and I don't believe he has done a map check yet. Neither player, to my knowledge at least, actually did a map check when they were going to Tower of Hera. So
eLmaGus definitely waited until he was on East End Mountain before he did so, and yeah, there's Zephyr's map check.
So you have to think that if he did the map check at Tower of Hera, then maybe he would have considered going into Dark Death Mountain here because of Turtle Rock being a pendant. Or maybe not, because Spike Cave and the tablet, who knows?
Yeah, it's always hard to say.
Well, eLmaGus is done with the main part of Thieves Town. It is springtime, so I guess that works as a suitable phrase for this. But yeah, just got to do the blind fight. Hopefully, gonna get the script pretty much fine here. Looks like it's well set. This fight is really scary if it gets out of hand, but if you manage to do it the same way every time, it will reward you in the same way. And there is something in that big chest.
Ooh, that's good. Well, that could be a big difference maker here. We'll have to see what Zephyr actually opts to do, because, as I said earlier, just doing Thieves Town right now is really attractive with how the seed has been so far.
Right. So it looks like Zephyr is going to check the bumper cave here quick.
I mean, it does make a lot of sense with the cape in hand to just quickly check this.
Yeah. He has already checked Lumberjack though, so there's no need for him to go that way around. As eLmaGus is probably going to be setting up for the blacksmith stuff here, I imagine, since this is as good a time as any to take the purple chest round.
Yeah, no goods to worry about either, even, so It's not like it's going to slow you down any.
No hammer's kind of annoying for it though, because you won't be able to do hammer pegs. Unless Zephyr finds it in Skull Woods over here. Very interesting divergence in this case. No, just a bomb capacity there. Not so good. Big key was big key compass, so you're gonna have to go around anyway. Maybe there's something in the big chest. I could be careful of that pit there.
Yeah, he almost fell in.
Right, so as suspected, eLmaGus is gonna go ahead and do frog stuff here. Blacksmith play, not too bad. If Blacksmith's got the hammer, that'd be pretty fun. The other thing you could do here, although it would cost a portal, is you could actually go ahead and check Magic Bat here.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen Magic Bat with the hammer a fair few times in the past. It's usually...
it's
but not this
there
time!
It is.
Oh, but Bombos! Bombos from the blacksmiths here. What are they doing with that?
But that hammer find in Skull Woods is actually pretty big, considering eLmaGus opted to skip checking that earlier.
Yeah, and he is going to go ahead and do this. Okay. That's not bad, because you can just save quit away from here, I guess, and do the purple chest that way if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or you
Zephyr's...
could just opt to walk back to the Darkhold portal, right? Suppose, I don't know.
Right. Zephyr's got to be a little bit careful here, taking a lot of the damage in this interim. There's the second item too, is the small shield, so the hammer is the main event, but both items are in the front of... Yeah, there's not a green pendant this place, is it? So...
Yeah, no, there's little reason to come back here. At least for now.
Yeah, you'd only really want to go back if you start suspecting something. Looks like eLmaGus is not going to save quit. It's going to take the full loop round here, which is also very respectable. Because you'd have to come back here anyway if you want to go ahead and do the south stuff. So very respectable play here. We'll find out what's in Feasttown Big Chest, I guess, pretty soon though, because I don't imagine Zephyr's going to skip that for too long.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason for him to skip the dungeon at all at this point, considering he can full clear it and has to, because it's a crystal.
And the fun thing for us is that between the two runners, they can do Palace of Darkness, but neither one of them can actually clear it by themselves right now, because they're missing the opposite item. And I don't think eLmaGus is going to be getting that hammer for a fair while.
No, it definitely doesn't look like he's heading in that direction.
I can imagine it being a play fairly soon, but probably not until a lot of the overworld checks have been done.
Yeah, I imagine he's going to check most of the overworld areas first and then consider diving into dungeons he can't or doesn't want to complete. And, well, it can't be too long, though, just because it is the hammer and it blocks so many things.
Right. That hammer, though, is probably going to stop Zephyr from getting the bow for quite a while, because that hammer lets him do Swamp Palace when he gets down there, it lets him do Ice Palace when he gets down there. It's basically going to... And you imagine if he gets the book flute at any point there, that might well stop him going on the mountain, because you want to check what Desert is like. And Desert's actually the only crystal dungeon that we can't clear right now. It's kind of surprising, but...
I mean, it happens pretty often with Desert Palace in my experience, that it's the last dungeon you end up being able to clear just because it's one of those dungeons that has slightly weird entrance requirements compared to all the other ones.
Sure, I guess it's just surprising that we are... Oh, hey, there's a 10 bomb that we didn't get at the start. Doesn't refill your bombs now, though, it's only plus 10. I think it's more just surprising... Oh, God. It's more just surprising that it's the only dungeon we can't clear, not because of just getting into it, but that means we can clear 6 crystal dungeons right now.
That's definitely a good point, yeah, considering we're not even 40 minutes in.
So, I think it's safe to say that cave was sufficiently hyped.
I'd say so, yeah. Everybody loves the boots.
Alright, yeah, so that removes most of the really... Oh, and the ice rod, okay, that's the most interesting item I've seen in there for quite a while. That removes a lot of the nasty trolls here, because those boots are another thing that could have been just about anywhere, because they could have only been required for desert here.
Well, it may have not even been required for desert at all. There was no way to know beforehand.
Sure, so that would have been especially if they really did for GT. Half magic. Alright, that's a pretty good thing to get with the boots. As Zephyr picks up his Quake here. Alright, so now it's looking like I'm actually like, okay, I could do aggro if I needed to now. Let's go see what Lumberjack has.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to save into the boots, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't mind this too much. It still would have been somewhat nice to see it chained in with somewhere else, but I don't mind it, because at the very least you do get that knowledge now, and if it turned out to be something really good, like Kane of Samaria, you would need to keep that in mind. Because even though, again, Samaria is not necessary for getting 7 crystals, it could be necessary for GT. Who knows where it actually will end up. Alright, so it does seem like eLmaGus is going to make the Skullwoods play. No, maybe not just yet.
No.
Which way around are you
checking.
going?
I guess he's going to be checking the bumper cave, which we know isn't anything good, and the graveyard ledge, which we haven't actually seen.
Yep, fair enough. King's Tomb as well, which I was a little surprised he didn't perform, but I guess it takes another walk over and it's kind of annoying. So we will have seen what was there. I imagine eLmaGus' screen might be slight, cropped differently, and that I know that's been a thing in a couple of my own races that way, where part of the screen is not necessarily visible. The way
Also,
things come that
we
way.
just saw the 2-star big chest item. It was just 20 rupees, so we didn't miss anything there.
Well, that's unfortunate for Zephyr, because it's really handy for him. So yeah, there's not really too much other than Kane of Samaria that could be the big troll here, because the pedestal can't really do anything, since if you get the flute, you have access to desert. So there's no way that can be the problem, and obviously Samaria itself can't be on the pedestal when you've got pendant dungeons requiring it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's only if we need right side GT and the Kane of Samaria is nowhere within crystals that we have to do that can be a problem. So interesting setup right now. Looking like it could be a very quick seed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it does definitely help the pendant dungeons that we do have. At least 2 of them are Misery Mine Toes Rock, all things considered.
Absolutely. It's always super disappointing when you get a seed with this sort of crystal setup, and it still turns out to be a really slow seed because the items are super trolly. That hasn't happened yet in this one, so just have to see.
We've found all the major progression items, basically. We're just looking for a couple minor one, or well, a single minor one, really.
Right. And it's almost surprising that we are so far in with only 2 crystals clear given the situation here, but it's mostly as we find the last medallion too. It's a frostfish this time instead of a quakefish, but still, it's kind of funny that we have only got 2 crystals for both players here, given we know how many are possible to obtain. But it's because eLmaGus doesn't have the hammer, and Zephyr has been doing a lot more overworld stuff here too, but he doesn't have the bow, so 2 dungeons are locked from Zephyr right now. Whereas like everything except Eastern is still locked from eLmaGus because he doesn't have that hammer.
He also picks up the world's most expensive hammer, or arrow, sorry, and then I guess he's going back to his Dark World portal. Interesting.
Well, I guess maybe the pyramid? It's the only place I
That's
can
the-
think you'd be going. Yeah.
The only other option I could think of is that he might be considering just going into Palace of Darkness and then mirroring over and clearing Eastern Palace or something.
That
Hoping for a
could-
vanilla hammer.
Could be the case. We'll have to see. Hopefully, for his sake, that's not the way this ends up. But then again, I know a fair few people will try and dip crystal dungeons to get the progression to beat them rather than going pendants. So I could see it, but just hopefully it's not, because as commentators, spectators, we know that's not actually to be very helpful here. Alright, so I believe this is the last of the current overworld checks that we can do outside of Spike Cave. Which, obviously, eLmaGus can't do because he doesn't have the hammer yet. But Zephyr can, so somebody can do it, that's the main thing. Just nothing there, though, so let's see. I would imagine, yeah, the ordering would be do Eastern first and come back in Palace Darkness. That's going to be a bit of a problem for eLmaGus if he gets the book or the flute here, though, because especially the flute might end up making him check all of Maya's area as well before doing.
And regardless of what Medinand is, he is in a position where he can actually enter Misery Maya and try and find something good there. So
that's what makes it a problem, is that he can. And it looks like Zephyr remembered that he kind of needs to do that bit first before he can do the blacksmith stuff. He did the blacksmith, but needs to do the digging game before he can take purple chest. So a little bit of a double back here, but it's
well, at least he remembered before picking up the purple chest itself. Considering that even if it's on a different screen, it prevents you from playing the digging game at all.
Right, and that's an incredibly frustrating spot to leave behind. Like, there's been a couple of instances where I've seen it being left behind because of the lack of money, and that it's so irritating because you just never have a chance to go back down into that area.
Yeah, because like if you're here on your first visit in Village Feldcast, it isn't that far out of the way, but after that it basically becomes as out of the way of a location as something like Ice Rod Cave or whatever. Of course, it's wouldn't have mattered this time, but you never know that beforehand.
Right. So it looks like Zephyr is basically following the standard loop here. This is very nice when you can do it all in one shot, because it's very easy to just have a lot of squares here left if you don't have the mirror first, or just being able to get everything in one shot, even if there's nothing actually good there. It's really nice to be able to just do it all and get it out of the way. So, remind me, which was the other 5-6 crystal here?
We had Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace being the 5-6 crystals, actually.
Oh, that would have been so good if eLmaGus had the hammer before coming here. Just get 5-6 straight away. It would have been really convenient.
Hmm.
You could do Swamp Palace. Yeah. It's like, then you could do Swamp Palace and just go Pyramid Fairy after that, and so nice. But Skull Woods had to be the place of the hammer this time. It's a really interesting spot for it too, being out of the way and everything else. You imagine if it was a crystal, it picked up straight away. But since it's not, it's having a bit of trouble getting that set up. Way too many hearts for it to really matter, and just 10 arrows there. Okay. I think that was the third item, however, so there's nothing at Armor Knights for a change.
Yeah, nothing but a very important crystal.
Sure. That is something I found a lot in this version, actually, is that Armor Knights seem to have an item almost all the time, as ZephyrBlayze is about to get his boots over here. So we might get to see it. I guess not at this point, it's been too far gone by now. Oh well,
Yeah,
he'll have them.
He's got the boots, so he's now going too fast for us to see.
Right, he's just time stopped on the stream because he's got the boots now. Hey, if Sonic can do it, then I'm sure that Zephyr can as well. Meanwhile, Silver Arrow is making absolute jokes out of the enemies in pretty much any dungeon, but especially the armor stands here that normally do actually just take pittance from everything except arrows. But Silvers, they just get.
Even with Silvers making it really much easier, that was still a really nice quick kill, I gotta say.
Yeah, definitely.
Just minimizing the time wasted between arrow shots.
Looks like Zephyr's gonna do Swamp Palace. Makes sense, he's right here, it can do the dungeon, it's a crystal.
Yeah, if he's got everything he needs, just go in and complete it, so why wouldn't he?
Right. So, you would have to think at this point, with missing a sword and a bow, that he isn't gonna go mode this dungeon.
No, I imagine he's gonna go for a full clear.
So it does seem like eLmaGus is going to make the pod dip here. It's a little unfortunate, but it's not the worst it could be, because at least you have access to everything else in here. And by the time you're done, all you've got to do is just come back and go mode it. With the boots, at the very least, it's not too bad. It'll be a little bit worse if flute is not the way to desert, because just running back here is kind of annoying.
Yeah. But, well, the worst bit of it really is having to get back here. The actual dungeon itself isn't too bad to double back through at the very least, and that's really nice.
It really isn't. He'd be hoping for Samaria before coming back through here, though, just to cheese the statue pushing.
On the other hand, he might really hope he could not find Samaria, all things considered.
I mean...
On the other hand, it doesn't really do anything for him right now, and so long as he's missing the hammer.
Yeah, until he gets that hammer, Totorock isn't even in play with it. But I guess you could see a dip to TR look flute, but other than that, Samaria doesn't really hurt that much, because the only other item that we need to see is a way into desert, and if you find a flute, which would get you to Maya, again, that'll also get you to desert, so if you find Samaria before flute specifically, that's not necessarily that bad. Well, nothing too big here. I like the hammer yoke from eLmaGus. It's something I do quite a bit as well. If you've got enough keys and you find a big key at the start, then the hammer yoke just makes this whole loop round a fair bit more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gonna have to use a bomb here. There's no boomerang, no Cane of Samaria, and Fighter Sword is too dinky to hit the switch. So there's just no good way of hitting that crystal switch right now for Zephyr.
Yeah, at least he remembered that the bombs are an option for it.
Sure. Doesn't seem like there's been too much in Palace Dance at the moment. And the one thing that early Big Key would make a go mode... Oh, but there we go. Okay, never mind. I was about to say that it would make a go mode of this dungeon very enticing, but here's the catch. eLmaGus doesn't have that hammer in Pendant Skull Woods. He's not going to go Pendant Skull Woods before Desert. You reckon he's going to dip Maya for it as well, since he's there?
Since he's there, it's really attractive. On the other hand, unlike Panels of Darkness just now, it's really easy for him to just camp back there at any given time. I'm not certain whether he'll go for that or another place first.
I mean, the obvious problem with Maya versus Skull Woods is both of them are 2-item dungeons, so they're both equally unattractive as far as going into. But I don't think he's going to have much of a choice after that. Because the thing is, you could at least get one of the main items. I did not see what was in the chest on Zephyr's side. You can at least get one of the items out of the Maya area. You can full clear Skull Woods. But the only other option really would be going to Ice Palace, hoping it's there, and that just really doesn't seem that great.
No, that doesn't seem appealing at all.
So we'll just have to see what happens at the end of this here. But that flute is very big to see, at the very least. It is nice that you could get that without having to do Helmasaur first. It's a bunch of money in the big chest of Swamp Palace there.
Yep, he's going straight into Desert Palace. Probably checking the ledge item first. Yep.
Yeah, because he didn't check that when he first came down. He just went straight up to Agina. That Agina play is gonna be kind of nice for efficiency here, though, because having already checked that, you can just flute straight away when you're done with the stuff around here. Small key there, so this dungeon was probably boots locked. Not that it makes too much of a difference since both players have got them, but always good to keep track of. As red mail picked up in Swamp Palace here. Okay.
It's going to be convenient at the very least.
Oh, and it wasn't boots locked. Okay, the fake out. Fair enough. So you would really be hoping to see both items in the two chests here, so you don't have to go for the big chest. But no such luck.
No.
No such luck whatsoever. Okay. So...
It looks like it's the big chest and Batmo for the items this time.
So now you definitely have to go over there. So if you didn't get the boots, this dungeon didn't even lock you out of an item. How nice is that?
Of course, you wouldn't have any way of knowing that, but...
Nope! Alright, so Zephyr's gonna try and use spin strats. It's why I don't like the spin strats myself. Because this happens. You have to charge up the sword before you can use the hook shot for this here. Because otherwise, you're just gonna end up running your sword into them, poking it, and doing no damage to them. So it gets really irritating, and this menu is incredibly bad.
Yeah, this menu is actually really irritating to go through, since you have to go left, up, or well, down, left, down, or up, right, up every single time. You'd rather not do that. Like, you'd rather make like the same movements a couple times in a row.
Right, this is easily the worst menu for Argus I have ever seen. It is so awkward to get this done quickly. But yeah, if you do want to use the sword spin with only fighter sword, you need to make sure that you hold the button down for long enough to charge the sword before you start using the hook shot. Because you need to basically release the spin as soon as you use the hook shot. Otherwise,
yeah, because otherwise you end up ineffectively poking and lose your charge.
Sure, I've seen a couple of people manage to move. Most notably, Christos managing to move before the puff actually gets to you once you've used a hook shot, but I don't really know how that works. It seems really awkward. Speaking of awkward, ran out of magic here and doesn't have the bow from Dark or Death Mountain to kill a one shot. So just a couple of extra spins at the end there. Already having done left side, there's nothing to come back into the dungeon for. Luckily, the big key was on left side, so it's a full clear in one shot. Nice. Doesn't look like eLmaGus got a whole lot out of Desert. But
no.
What can you get? Kana Samaria, that's about it. He wanted the hammer, obviously, but Kana or sword, that's pretty much the only things that we need to see.
Yeah, now we're going to see a big thing here. Is he going to go straight? Is he going to Maya? Or nope, he's not going to Maya.
Alright. Very, very nice. I mean, they're both unattractive dungeons, right? But Skullwoods you can at least full clear. So I can see a lot more sense within that. Because having access to a full clear of this is, guaranteeing yourself getting 2 items. Whereas if you just go straight for Maya, you might not be able to get both items because you need Samaria to finish it.
It's also good to see Zephyr at this very same moment that eLmaGus is about to pick up his hammer, climbing that mountain and very soon picking up his bow.
Yeah, so this is going to be really good for Zephyr because then he can just do Pod Eastern in one shot because he already has the hammer. And if he does that before doing ice, he'll get the flute, and that'll be pretty much go mode, unless Samaria decides to rear its ugly head. But we'll see. Because well, at this point, I would expect there'd be at least one sword in G. So
Yeah, that's definitely the most likely option. Like, it's something that's usually safe to bank on.
I mean, there could be a freak scenario where all 3 swords are on Laser Bridge, but I don't think that's happening somehow.
Let's just not count on that happening.
Yeah. So, excellent pickup of the bow here, just as eLmaGus picks up the hammer. Really good, effectively sinking here. eLmaGus is almost in go mode out of all this. Has just one item left to get.
eLmaGus is really just missing a sword at this point. Possibly the
He's
King of Samaria.
gonna be disappointed that he's now got the face blocker. Although it doesn't seem that bad on this sprite, actually. It's really bad if you have someone like Kirby or Boo 2, where it just literally blocks the entire sprite, and you just can't see them anymore, because they're like 1 tile high or something. But,
Yeah, suddenly you're playing with the Invisible Man sprite, basically.
And Zephyr also getting the mirror shield at pretty much exactly the same time. Very
Yeah, we can basically call this sync, even though it definitely isn't.
Yeah, it's not that far away from it, really. All Zephyr needs to do at this point is Palace of Darkness, and functionally we're in a very similar spot here. This really isn't that far, they aren't that far apart from each other at this point. Like, eLmaGus has got the crystal lead for sure, but at the same time, you're thinking, well, you've still got to find a sword even if King of Samaria is not required, so you'd imagine he might well be hunting for items through some of this.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be definitely clearing rooms like this penguin room, because it's real quick to just get that one chest, and oh well. I could definitely see him skipping the right side, if you want to think of it like that, of Ice Palace, because it's so long detour, even if it has most of the items.
Sure, I wouldn't be too surprised if we do see basically go mode ice, but instead of being, just like getting the couple of chests which are in the way. But I wouldn't be too surprised if the rest of it gets skipped. Especially if there's a second item in the resort. So Zephyr is heading on up, is using Portal 4 instead of Portal 5, which I think does make sense here. Is going to be going into Palace of Darkness Eastern combo. We'll be getting the flute. We'll also be able to finish Palace of Darkness, which is the big time difference, really. Is that even with the flute, you're still going to have to dash all the way through the maze and everything again. So it's still going to be kind of annoying for eLmaGus to go back for that. And yeah, the only real catch at this point in terms of resources is I think that ZephyrBlayze is not going to be able to pick up the half magic here, because that was under Bonk Rocks, and I highly doubt it's possible, but I highly doubt that's going to get checked at this point. Oh, Kiki.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. Since he's going straight to Palace of Darkness now, he just doesn't have any reason to go there, really.
Right.
Like, once he picks up that flute, his goal should definitely just be to straight clear the remaining dungeons he's missing and continue on, rather than going for overworld checks. So it's just much more likely that you'll find anything you might be missing along the way, rather than going out of your way for something you might not even need at all.
Right. So eLmaGus is going to be finishing up ice here, as sort of thought, just getting the first couple of chests. I didn't see what was in the resort actually, but just getting the first couple of chests and going straight for Cold State here. Yeah, so once Zephyr works his way through this dungeon, he will be able to get the flute just at the back part of the dungeon. I like the use of bombos here instead of the fire rod, because with only fighter sword, you still need to spin attack against Cold State here and damage him. And that means it's kind of annoying to actually get enough hits in. So, using the fire rod much safer. And even with half magic, Fire Rod still takes half of the magic to actually break the shell, whereas Bombos only takes 1/16. No, 1/8 of it. Yeah. So
It's definitely a lot better. Like having 14, I believe, remaining fire rod shots versus
14
having 8
shots.
remaining fire rod shots is a pretty significant difference on a boss that you can only really properly damage with that fire rod.
Right, and yeah, the fire rod does gold sword damage to Coldstep, so it downs him in 4 hits. So you actually do have enough fire rod shots to just blitz him entirely with half magic if you bombos it first.
And he does still have that one green potion in his inventory as well, but why use that if you don't need it?
Exactly. So it does look like it's going to be going into the Swamp Palace here. I imagine the same sort of general play, where it'll be go mode it, but get all the items that are in the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he'll probably pick up the Bumble, or basically, I imagine he'll be basically picking up everything except the 2 left side items, because all the rest is relatively on the way with the items he has.
Sure. Zephyr getting a little bit stuck with the hard hat beetles there. Yep. Just getting it second time. Over the gap there. Too bad. Not sure. Was there a small key or an item in the big key chest here? So there has to be at least.
I think eLmaGus skipped it and then concluded based on what he'd found so far that it had to be a small key in here.
Right. Oh, eLmaGus is just going for it, not even getting the bomb chest in the way. Okay. Respect
That's
it.
interesting. Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, the thing is, there has to be at least 4 small keys in the first 6 chests of Palastanus, and the big key being one of them. I wasn't sure like how many others have been picked up. So, yeah. So, I wonder if eLmaGus will pick up any of the chests in here then.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Because he definitely does still need to find a sword to be able to complete the game. That is absolutely guaranteed. So it's interesting that he's skipping a couple of these relatively easy to reach locations. He might be thinking to himself that his opponent might have gone into Skullwoods earlier and just full cleared Swamp already, having not found the flute or something else yet.
Yeah, that's possible.
So is going with the conclusion that if there is something important here in Swamp Palace, he would be losing a lot of time anyway. So if to his opponent, regardless if his opponent already found it.
Right, so it's effectively playing to win as opposed to playing not to lose.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to pick up the 2 chests down here. These are much faster. The 2 that have been skipped so
those
far.
are 2 very fast chests, and I imagine if he's picking up those, he'll be picking up the one in this waterfall room as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one thing that's kind of important to think about when you're running these races, is that since you only have one opponent to play against, and sometimes it is more of a case of what can I do to increase my chances of winning this, as opposed to how safe can I play to not lose this. You know, there's a case to be made for taking larger quote-unquote risks in order to try and maximize your chances of just winning in general. And I think that's what we're seeing from eLmaGus here.
Yeah, I do think so.
So this is how you do the spin strat stuff. You need to hold the sword out long enough so that your spin charges, and then you release it as you're using the hookshot. And you can...
I've seen some people actually manage to combine doing the spins with hooking 2 of the puffs at the same time too, but I've not had much luck replicating that because it seems really tricky.
Yeah, like I said, I think Christos is the main one I've seen that, and I know there are others that can as well. Very interesting, good setup for the silver arrow hit there.
Mhm.
It's a little bit nicer on getting the crystal than the one I do, because I put him in the bottom right corner and just go from there, but it's a little bit easier to get to the crystal in time before it hits the ground.
Yeah, definitely. If Argus is in one of the corners, it's basically impossible to get the crystal before it hits the ground.
Yeah, so nice strat. Well, the only crystal left for eLmaGus is Palace of Darkness, which we're seeing Zephyr finish up. So, assuming that eLmaGus finds a sword and doesn't need Cane of Samaria, this is his race to lose.
Hmm.
But it is worth noting that Zephyr is really not that far behind. He has Easton to do after this, which is just clear the rest of the dungeon since he's already gone through. And upon activating the flute, just a fairly quick desert. So it's not that drastic a difference yet. There is ice as well, so I suppose it's depends how he wants to handle ice. It could be,
if he
a little bit larger.
Yeah, exactly. If he opts to full clear ice, hoping for a sword upgrade, that could be making a lot of difference one way or the other, depending on whether our other sword upgrades are to be found.
So Zephyr just starting the Helmasaur fight here. It's a nice third movement. Helmasaur just moving down to the bottom means you can attack him quite a lot in succession, since you don't get bounced quite so far back because the wall stops you. Yeah, just get Silver holding the sword during the menu transition so that it doesn't have a spin attack interrupt him. It's very good.
Yeah, it's also something really important to keep in mind, to keep that sword button held down as you close the menu, because, well, if you release that spin, it's kind of inconvenient.
Right. Yeah, so a very nice Helmasaur fight there. He didn't move just at the back a lot, so it was very quick to get all the hits in. And yeah, so saying ZephyrBlayze just gotta run through Eastern Palace here as well. It's not too bad at this point. Interesting to see eLmaGus switch to the bow instead of just using the ice rod on the crystal switch there.
Mm-hmm. Must be a habit thing.
Yeah, because I think in NMG you would maybe have full health here if you've done the hammer jump well. Get the extra hearts at the left-hand side just before when you're pushing the statue onto the switch. But if you don't, then you would still want to probably menu to the boomerang for it.
Yeah,
But
that's true,
there's no
actually, because it's
boomerang
just a
here.
single up as opposed to up and left.
There is no boomerang in this menu though, and even then, the blue boomerang, you actually have to get a bit closer to the switch in order for it to work, so who knows? So, yeah, do you think we're going to be able to clear GT at this point?
I have a feel it's... Well, in all likelihood we can, because it's only 5 of the chests in GT that are locked behind the Kind of Samaria, but... Well, we'll have to see. On that
Right.
note, I'm already seeing a couple numbers in chat, so I think I need to start something.
Yeah, you want to do the honors of that? Because I don't really know this. So that looks like it's been started with that. So there is a guessing game for the big key here. We see what number between 1 and 22. We see which chest the big key is in. It'll be off of, including items we've seen, so the torch does count if it's not picked up. And it is pretty much just a case of where are we going to find it on eLmaGus' side? Has the dead rock right in the middle there, the most awkward spot that it could be in.
Yeah,
man.
it's nice compensation for him to just decide to take this route through now instead of waiting for it to become vulnerable again.
Right. Actually, in the first tournament, I indirectly had Andy Tightness at the during the commentary near the end of it. And even if you haven't opened portals, so long as you get decent enough Deadrock RNG, it's a couple of seconds faster to go up the Tilderock way. But that has a lot more Deadrocks on it. And
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
can't get up there because one decides to be right in the middle, then basically have to go this way. Otherwise, it's just 100 times slower. So, where's Zephyr going off of this one? Is he going for Pyramid Ferry?
Maybe.
Just
It feels
realizing,
like
wait, yeah, okay,
it's interesting.
definitely. If Pyramid Ferry has a sword, let me tell you, that's going to be something. Wow, though, eLmaGus using the hookshot speed to get up there a little bit quicker. And we'll just see, can he clear this dungeon? And if so, does he get a sword here? It's still not over, even if Big Key is out, but then again, King of Samaria could just be in GT, and then it doesn't matter. Alright then.
Well, that definitely answers the question of whether he will be able to clear Ganon's tower.
I see how it is, game. Okay. So you're telling me there's a chance that all three are still on this bridge? I don't expect it, obviously, but you're telling me there's a chance. Alright, yeah, Zephyr actually hadn't checked the pyramid as well, so it was a combo pick there, I guess. And there's not a sword there. Okay. Let's see, Rupee. Another small key, lots of small keys, and there's the big key, but there's no sword. So I think at this point you've got to keep going. Interesting that the fire shooters don't actually respond to the hammer. I always thought they did for some... Oh! Ouch! This is not a friendly Starfox. Alright. So Zephyr's doing the King's Tomb check means he's probably going to check Bonkos too, so that fear of no half magic isn't actually play here.
Yeah, it's all... The race at this point is really just coming down to whoever is one of those sword's hiding.
Right, because if you find a sword here, you can instantly... And because you know you're done.
Yeah. Like, that's all you need. You have Sulphurs. Master Sword Ganon is kind of a pain to do, but it's not too bad with Sulphurs at the very least.
He's got half magic cape and a green potion still. There's not really
yeah,
any worry
true,
about it.
That's true.
So this is kind of the ideal situation if you're going to have to do Master Sword Ganon. Because the cape just makes it really easy to get double hits in phase 2, and you can clear that within 2 cycles. Boomerang, no sword. And that's as far as eLmaGus is going to take it. Okay, hoping for a sword on the right-hand side. I can see this actually, because you basically get to the same chest at the end. You do right side from here. Is he going to do Tower Room as well? No. Okay. That's to be expected. It takes forever to do Tower
I
Room.
definitely agree with that.
But basically, these 4 chests are possible to get fairly quickly, and then you'd be reckoning that from here, it's faster to actually get to the end of where the 2 sides connect up again. But still, just hedging his bets on this place having it instead of the chest. There's a B, so that's the final puddle. Oh, not even going for the main bit. Okay.
That's interesting.
I am marginally disappointed that we didn't see a big chest opening. But then that might just be personal bias, because I've only had the time or had the chance to open it like times, and I found silvers once and a sword in there twice. So, confirmation bias at its finest, but it's just like, I'm disappointed that we didn't see it there. That's all I can say.
Yeah, he's just opting to go for the choice here of it being along the way to Aghanim 2.
This is brave, though, and there's also something which is going to be rather challenging at this stage, is a fighter sword ascent is not easy. I don't know if anybody has really tried to do this very often, because it doesn't come up that often, but if you've ever tried this, you'll know that this is not easy to do fast.
Yeah, like you end up leaning really heavily on, well, your other items really, because just with your actual sword just isn't going to do much. All these enemies require at least 2, mostly 3 hits, so it's just really annoying to go through.
Very good silver shot at the very least. Yeah, because even mini Stalfos take 2 hits with the basic sword. Yeah, going to be expending a lot of magic here. Yeah, because with Master Sword, my usual play in the last stream here would have been, not running out of it too, my usual play would have been to charge a sword spin, hit the Stalfos on the left, and then use the ice momentum to swing that spin in against the red horse head. But you just can't do that with Fighter Sword because it takes 2 spins to kill.
Exactly. Like, it's really awkward to do this climb with the Fighter Sword. The worst bit of it is over now.
This is normally the point where I'd say he's got to be careful of his health, etc., but he has 2 fairies, so there's not much to be worried about here. While Zephyr has got ice and rest of desert here to take care of before joining eLmaGus in this amazing hunt for a sword.
Yeah, and so far his decision to check more of the overworld doesn't seem to have been a bad one, considering eLmaGus hasn't found another sword upgrade yet either.
Right, so if there isn't one up here, you've got to be thinking, where is eLmaGus going to go for it? It's not as simple as just going straight back to GT and doing the bottom part of that, because you've got to climb the mountain again to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're going to climb the mountain again at this rate, rather than going into GT, wouldn't you rather just go into Total Rock? Because there's a lot more items there at this point.
Yeah, I guess there's what, 5 plus Mimic Cave there. There's 4 left in GT.
Yeah, and all of 4 of those are fairly deep in, so it's interesting to think about what the better option actually is.
Oh, but bailed out at the end. Okay. Well, that is go mode for eLmaGus. Oh man.
Yeah, something really horrible has to happen now for the race not to be in his hands.
That's one of those things. You expect there to be one in GT, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be at the top of the tower here. That was a calculated risk, to put it nicely, and it worked out. So this time it's great. I have seen runs, and past tournaments have seen runs where that has not worked out in the same way. And I'm sure there are a couple of people who will remember 1 or 2 of those particularly high-profile races too. It's not even just early round ones. I believe it was like top 8 or something. I
definitely remember one of the fall tournament races having the scenario where one of the runners, after defeating Aghanim 2, actually had to continue hunting for his sword, while the other one, his opponent, was slowly making his way up GT, but did already have a Tempest sword. So it's interesting how things can go depending on the decisions people make.
Right. Meanwhile, Agatu being taken care of here, and just missed off of the shot there. It's a little bit unfortunate, but it's still pretty nice so far. Yeah, not too bad. It was a 4 cycle.
I wasn't paying too close attention, unfortunately. I do think it was 4 cycle.
Pretty respectable. So, the one thing is, though, the reason we were looking for a sword so badly is because even with Master Sword, you still need to spin attack versus Ganon in order to actually damage him here. Because it's the Sword of Evil's Bane, but that doesn't mean jack to this guy, apparently. So, he's just gonna be taking the swings here with the spin attacks. Spin attacks do tempered sword damage, so you're gonna have to hit him 12 spins here. It's really nice when you can get a few hits at the bottom there, because that makes 6 hits already.
Oh, this is
Straight
also
up
a
to the
really
top,
good
too.
position.
Yeah, for sure. Might still be a little bit awkward to... Yeah, with the thing there, it's gonna have to be a foresight. Here's one now. Which is okay, that's still fine. And this is a fantastic spot
Yeah, for
to end
Master
up
Sword.
in here.
Yeah, this is the spot you're hoping for if you're doing Master Sword Ganon on the hits phase 2.
Right, because you don't even need the cape out here to get the spins. The only thing, that mirror shield is actually causing a decent bit of lag there, because it's just so dumb. Mirror shield takes way too much space on the screen, I guess. And the lag can really throw your timing off on the spin. Careful. So, just not that fun. But, hard part of the fight is now done. So we just have to make sure we don't get hit by the fire bats here. It can be a little bit tricky to actually get the spin attack off before the fire bat actually lands, to be honest, because you're always in anticipation of it. And if he does a teleport like that and goes up to the corner like that, it's really hard to get the spin before the fire bat comes in.
Yeah, and then for this very final phase, the most awkward thing of doing this with the Master Sword is actually how far flinging away you go whenever you
Oh, that was
Hera or
beautiful.
spin. But that was a beautiful triple to finish it off.
Yeah, so eLmaGus actually used the pit at the bottom in order to make sure he didn't get knocked back as far, then pulled himself up out of said pit in order to more quickly react to where Ganon was there. Absolutely glorious triple to finish that off with a time of 1 hour, 26 minutes, and 32 seconds. GG.
GG.
Definitely one of the faster runs I've seen so far.
Yeah, 126. Well, any sub-90 run has been real quick for the tournaments.
Meanwhile, Zephyr is just about finishing through Ice Palace here. Gotta give it up to him. This is his final crystal. No slouch over this whatsoever. It's still incredibly quick. So, I guess we will just see if eLmaGus, when eLmaGus gets in for interview stuff. I'll imagine he'll want to come in for interview here.
I imagine so. He usually pops it in my experience. That was a pretty quick Cold Star reference off his side.
Yeah, absolutely. I was saying, props to Zephyr with this as well. This seed has been very well played on both players' parts here. eLmaGus just had a little bit more luck with what Overworld was checked, and not having to double dip a couple of dungeons really helped. Like Palace of Darkness was the big one, but that paid off in getting the flute too. So that's really it. The one dungeon that eLmaGus double dipped gave him progression. The one Zephyr did not. So a little bit of an unfortunate thing there, but it was still very good race overall. Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, this was actually a really interesting race to watch, just because of the early divergence they both did after finding the Titan Smiths. Because that meant eLmaGus went straight up Dark in the Mountain and ended up finding the bow really early, which was basically Zephyr's last item for go mode if we ignore the flute. Whereas Zephyr went straight into Skullwoods and found that hammer really early, which was something that was blocking eLmaGus for a really long time. It's interesting how that small different decision made such a big difference throughout the entire race.
Right. And you have to imagine that if Zephyr did go up the mountain and get the bow earlier, he may well have just done the same place that eLmaGus did anyway. So might not have even gotten the hammer early enough. Fairy's forsaken him. Oh no. That one fairy is like impossible to get, I swear. If you actually want to bottle it, then doing a bug net dash is actually the way to do it. Because if you item dash with the bug net to that thing, it actually just gets instantly captured. You do it from the side. So I've seen it a couple of times. I haven't really done it myself for a bit, but that fairy just never wants to get caught for that. So it's actually kind of disappointing in a way that Quake doesn't let you do the bonk stuff with the boots, because you'd think making an earthquake with magic let you bonk stuff on torches. Nope.
No, you always need the boots. It does actually bonk free the prices that you normally get from bonking into trees, interestingly enough, but it doesn't work for items.
So it's half-hearted, but it doesn't actually give you the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's real weird.
Oh, and there's the hammer on the smart is like, I see what you did there, game. Looks like eLmaGus is in our setup room, so let's pull him on in.
And good game. Well played.
Yeah, a fantastic run there, eLmaGus.
Thanks, GG.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous were you going up that tower?
10? Because, I mean, the thing is, like, I've done these gambles before, you know, gambling on Sword GT, but usually it's on a seed where you know, didn't clear that much overworld or stuff like that. And looking at this seed, I mean, I got nothing left except for dungeons, so I was kind of nervous that I have to go back into another dungeon. That would have been less than ideal, but yeah. There was a sword there, I mean, I don't know.
And you got bailed out with that sword really late into GT as well, after you already decided to just go upstairs.
Yeah. I don't know. That was really nerve-wracking. Like, I've had these seeds before, but like I said, usually you have like overworld left and stuff like that, but not this seed. I would have had the choice between Swamp, Ice, Mire, and Turtle Rock, which
that's not an easy set of decisions to make. We can tell you that Swamp Fells would definitely have been a wrong decision because Zephyr checked that way earlier. Because he went into Skullwood significantly earlier than you did, and had the hammer for much longer while the bow was haunting him for a while.
Yeah, I figured. That's the one thing I regret is not going into Skullwoods immediately, but I kind of already had made my route in my mind. Like, after finding the bow on Death Mountain, I was like, okay, we can like clear Thieves Town and go to Hype Cave, and then go back and around to Pod. Nice and easy, and kind of neglected Skull, and that's because that was a pendant. I guess that was a mistake. I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to say. It ended up working out pretty well overall.
Yeah, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. That was the thing that had me nervous as well. The reason I justified the not going to Skull was I need swords anyways. They might be on the overworld. I need a way into desert, or I needed a way into desert for the longest time. So, you know, just trying to clear overworld as efficiently as possible for that reason. But yeah, should have probably checked Skull earlier. Not too. I mean, it worked out, but you know, should have probably done that.
It's always hard to say, because if you end up checking Skullwoods in that sort of situation, chances are it just has nothing, and you end up killing Moth and whatnot for a complete waste, and you end up losing 4 or 5 minutes to that anyway. So it's always an issue when it is Pendant Skullwoods. That's something I'm wrestling with quite a lot as well at the moment, is when do you actually check it?
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I was afraid of. If I had like tempered at that point, I would have been like, yeah, whatever, let's like quickly go kill him off. But like with fighter sword and stuff, no boots, I was like, let's not do that.
Right,
yeah.
it actually takes effort at that point to kill him, so it's a case
Yeah.
of, I don't want to expend effort here.
Yeah.
So, Zephyr checking the chest you didn't in GT, not finding a sword at the moment. There's still the big chest though, so I still have hope.
Yeah, who knows? This might be the one seed in which the big chest actually is helpful to open.
Just checking potion bottle situation here. He does have one empty bottle, so there will be fairy pickup in the one room you never get to see. That one, that right after ice armors.
Yeah, the other refill room in Gent Cannon's Tower.
Yeah. Yeah, so also Ken of Samaria was something when you're just seeing, I don't need this for any still dungeons. Oh no. Oh no. The mushroom in the big chest.
Yeah, we saw from the
Not happy.
we saw from the credits earlier, by the way, that the mushroom it just leads to the red boomerang, so he's not missing much by not handing it in, but it's still really annoying to find when you're hunting down a sword.
For sure. Yes, this might seem like a bit of an out of the blue question, but with this seed potentially not needing Kane of Samaria, what strategy would you have done for the wizard rooms in GT? Like the ones on floor 5?
I would have either used the bow or the fire rod, depending on... I used a lot of magic, so I would have used the bow in that instance, but yeah, those are the two go-to items for me to clear those rooms, then.
Okay. Yeah, because it's always... like, there's just some items that you just assume that you're going to have in these things. Like, at least Master Sword is one of them. So dealing with the stuff in Gauntlet really annoying. And then Kane of Samaria is generally the other one you just assume you're going to have. And when you don't have those, I'm always interested to see just how people adapt to that. And say, okay, what items can I use for it?
Yeah, it's super awkward actually to clear those rooms without the King of Samaria.
And looks like the gold B is getting released on the way past here. Every chest in the bottom area has been checked now for Zephyr, so the only thing left to do is to climb and find the one sword you did.
Well, he
No
did
idea.
skip the tile. He did skip the tile room as
That's
well.
true.
But
Who wants to do tile room though?
nobody
Let's
wants
be
to do
real.
tile room, and we at least know for a fact that he's going to find the Master Sword along the way up here, so that's going to be nice for him.
I think Tyrum has to be a small key, I think, because... Oh no, actually he has 2 keys, never mind.
Yeah, I didn't keep enough track of how many I found, but I thought all 4 of them were already picked up in the
Yeah, no.
chests.
Yep. So there must have been a key behind Ice Armors as well. Yeah, that was...
Yeah,
that was
oh yeah,
what
there
I
was,
wasn't sure
yeah.
about. Yeah. Okay, so Tyrum could potentially be a sword. Fantastic.
I was secretly doomsdaying that all of the laser bridge, but that's just the way that you go with these things, right? It's like, what's the worst case scenario that can happen? Okay, let's go for that then.
Yeah.
One that I wouldn't wish on it really, but it's just fun to speculate what seriously could be the worst case here.
Yeah. And this scene was so fast otherwise, that's the funny part. Like, we could have had everything in like 20 minutes except for the sword. If you just like, beeline pod, well, 20 minutes is a bit exaggerated, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
You could have definitely had a sub 40 go bird -4, let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think by the sort of 37-minute mark, I'm trying to remember if that was when you were in hard, but I think it was just a way into desert was the only thing that was being missed at that point, and you were along your way going for palace down the stairs. So yeah, very, very quick in a sense. Like, has that been your overall experience with V29? It seems to be really polarizing. It's like either incredibly trolly or super fast and with no in between. Has that been your experience with this as well?
So and so. Like some seeds are kind of normal. I've had normal, quote unquote normal seeds, but yeah, some often it ends up like being a struggle with Master Sword. Was what I noticed. Like you don't find a lot of swords sometimes in 29. I don't know why that is, but I think the last 5 races I did, I had like to do Master Sword Ganon 4 times out of that. So I don't know. That might just be coincidence, of course, but yeah.
Of
That's
course,
like,
yeah.
that's the main thing that I kind of noticed when I was racing in the past.
Yeah, that's something that past versions have had to deal with before. I think V21 was the one that was very notably 2 swords plus silvers in GT like every time. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I've heard a couple other people have had issues finding swords as well, so it might not just be.
And we do know for a fact that they weren't all hiding in GT this time around.
Thankfully. I'm still waiting for that one seed where you can get to Ganon's tower with no swords whatsoever before you're in Rando Room, just because.
Oh god.
Oh god.
And I feel like I've just made a number of nightmares on people's Plando seeds now because
This
of that.
this was actually a seed with the one pendant layout in which that is possible, by the way. That can only happen if Mystery Maya, Total Rock, and Skullwood's a pendant, because those 3 dungeons need a sword.
Yep. No other dungeon actually does, so. Alright. And anything else you want to add on this one, though?
More swords, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just doing the gauntlet without a Master Sword or better is so awkward.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. How many, if any, actually, how many seeds have you had that have started with an Uncle Sword? Have you actually had one yet?
I've had a couple. I've raced like about maybe 15, 29 seeds standard, and I had like 2 Uncle Start swords, so.
Okay.
In the tournament itself, for the races that have been restreamed so far, I've seen it happen once that we had the sword and uncle. Usually it's something else.
Right, I've only had one personally, so
I actually haven't seen it at all in any seeds I've played personally yet, so that's kind of been interesting.
It really does seem like the whole patch notes thing of swords are very much underplayed from Uncle, like they are less likely than any other item, seems to definitely be the case.
I did like the Cane of Burner though, and then immediately the Fire Rod.
Yeah, that was a great fake out.
That was definitely a great fake out. It just fooled you into thinking that you were gonna have to go with the Gain of Burner, and then you got the Fire Rod. Then one of the first gods you killed also gave you 8 bombs immediately, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
this is a very, very nice escape for starting with Gain of Burner.
Oh, Zephyr not getting any shots off on the first pattern there. The Aga pattern didn't seem that great, to be honest, the Aga 2 pattern here. Four hits, just got one more to go. But even after all of the other checks that Zephyr has made here, now like full clear in Swamp and all of that, he's still going to be doing Master Sword only for the first half of the Ganon fight here.
Yes, those remaining swords just have to be hiding in Turtle Rock and Misery Maya, 2 dungeons that you just don't want to enter without that Cane of Samari you couldn't find until entering Ganon's tower. It's kind of impressive, really.
Actually, that's a good question that I was thinking at the time. Is you basically only had Maya and Skullwoods left to do at that point, right? When you ended up going for Skull. Was there ever a thought of doing Maya first, or was it no, definitely Skullwoods?
Yeah, the thing is, the Meyer, it was... I didn't even check the medallion, but I found the medallion so late that the better play at that point was Skull, because my opponent was more likely to already have done that. And if it's in Meyer, I'm not losing time, or that much time anyways, because he would have had to check the other locations from medallions as well.
Right. The thing I was thinking at the time was it was a whole like playing to win as opposed to playing not to lose sort of thing. And I guess that makes sense with the way you're describing that. If it's more race specific thing with that, knowing that you are against an opponent and this is likely what they have done. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I was really worried about the hammer being in Swamp or Ice as well, but you know, at that point, that should be the last locations you check.
Yeah, definitely.
Not gonna lie, if the hammer is in Swamp, then you just admit that the seed has bested you, and it's like, okay, whatever, you know, this is last check unless you're a crazy person.
Yep. Pretty much.
The only fate you can have if that does happen is that you can at least basically guarantee that your opponent will also check that as the very last possibility to get the hammer, because you just don't see people go into Swamp without the hammer. It's just not done. Like, you can only check that one single chest that wants to do that.
Alright. Oh, well, there's a fairy, so there's at least one fairy, because we got one at the bottom. I think there's two fairies here, so not too big of a deal to take the hit there. Just a little bit unfortunate that the first cycle is going to exist here because of that, but it's not too bad, really. Gets the torch glitch, though. Which can actually be pretty impactful when you're running Master Sword for this fight. Not in your case, though. You got a great triple on the fight here.
Yeah, I was surprised that actually was a triple. I thought I was getting a double, but it worked out.
It works out wonderfully.
Not quite quick enough on the... I think the torch going out actually ate his input. Oh, too close there. Okay, keep it together, Zephyr. You got this. Alright, there we go. Final hit done. And Zephyr is not happy with the pig door there. He's remembered to move down a little bit too. You're too high up the screen. Your sword holding up doesn't actually happen. And the door never opens until you come back down further again.
Yeah, it's really awkward when that happens, and I've seen a couple of people just walk straight off the edge when they make that little mistake. But regardless, he finishes with an official time of 1 hour and 47 minutes exactly.
So he's in the setup room. We'll just wait until the audio is switched over. Not? Okay. There we go. But no, definitely GG Zephyr though. 147 is no slouch of a time for rando stuff here. This is still very comfortably within the great time sort of range. So I would be happy with a seed like this. Alright. Hey Zephyr, GG.
Hi, thank you very much.
Oh, what a seed for the swords, eh?
You know, I keep getting these GT plastic sword seeds. It's not very fun. Especially when you clear the entire basement except for tile room.
Yeah.
I want to say GD to eLmaGus first before anything else, because looks like he beat me by a good 20 minutes, and I feel like I did okay in the seat outside of some nerves.
GG, dude. Well played.
Thanks, man.
No, you absolutely did do very well with this seed. This is no slouch of a time here. Honestly, it's just. I think the main one was just when bow got picked up, because eLmaGus went straight up to Death Mountain, got the bow, didn't get the hammer for quite a while, but eventually did Pod Eastern How, so I had the flute before getting the hammer, which means that Swamp Palace was more or less a go mode at that point. Taking the shot that there was both a sword in GT and Cane of Samaria wasn't going to be necessary. So when it came down to that, it's just you'd already done Swamp Palace as a full clear, whereas eLmaGus effectively got 4 chests in there and that was about it. So
that could have saved me some time, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't really think that I would match up very well against him, because I know he's like infinite execution, and I think he's lost like 1 Swiss round in like all of these tournaments. So I said, you know what, if I'm going to beat him, I have to try a couple of things off the wall. So I knew I could go to Death Mountain at the beginning, but I decided to dip Eastern to see if maybe I can get lucky and try to get something ahead of him. And then I dipped Skull Woods just for the fact that it's Skull Woods. But after I saw it was a pendant, I figured maybe he'd skip it.
Well, you were correct on that one. It took eLmaGus significantly longer to find the hammer than you did.
But unfortunately, it doesn't look like I was able to convert it into what I needed.
It's an important strategy to keep in mind with these, though, because you are just playing against one person, and if you have any sort of inkling on their tendencies for stuff, you can play to that and potentially, disrupt stuff by finding something in a place they're not likely to check, as was the case here with the whole Pendant Swamp Skull Woods thing. So definitely kudos to you for the strategy here.
I had an Excel sheet from a few matches I watched of his to try to nail down some tendencies. I figured that would be the only way I could really stand a chance to study.
It has worked for people in the past, I'll say that much. So definitely don't feel bad for doing that. That is a great way of going about this.
All right. Well, I really appreciate the restream, and I definitely appreciate the butt whooping eLmaGus gave me. So thanks you guys for commentating. I hope you weren't too harsh on me when I was having my little nervous moments, like forgetting before going to Pyramid Fairy.
No, I will admit I was a bit curious as to which way you're going, but I figured you were going for Pyramid Fairy. You just had to go back and get the thing. So like, oh yeah, okay, that's what's going on. Nothing bad with that. Again, you did perfectly fine with this one. I would be pleased with a time like this on this sort of seed where you just got that hideous I'm going up GT with the fighter sword, this cannot end well sort of thing,
So did eLmaGus clear out the bottom like I did, or did he just, I think his time was too good. I think he just blitzed it.
Skipped the final ice armor bit, but otherwise went to random room and then did right side and mirrored and went up the tower from there. Just didn't do ice armors.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I don't feel too bad about it. This is like my 5th best time ever. I can't really be mad at 147.
Yeah, no, that is pretty good in that case. If it's your 5th best time ever, you definitely can't complain even if you lost the race.
So I'll take it as a learning experience and be ready for my next opponent.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic way of putting it. And with that sort of mentality, I'm sure you'll do well with the rest of your round. So good luck to you for that.
Thanks, Gamer Cal. And dude, thank you also.
You're welcome, and thank you for being here in the tournament and allowing yourself to be restrained.
No problem, guys. You're welcome.
People often take that for granted, but it can be quite nerve-wracking going up playing for a lot more people than you used to. It's not easy, so we very much do appreciate it.
Can we talk about my 511 menu time? I'm so bad at menuing.
I mean, you did end up having to do Hammer Argus, which doesn't help matters, of
Oh,
course.
that was the worst Hammer Argus menu I have ever seen. Jeez.
I was considering saying maybe I'll just do sword charges instead of hammer, but I was just mistiming everything, so I said I'm just gonna do the hammer.
Yeah, we saw eLmaGus do that later on. Actually, you were slightly too quick in getting the hook shot going most of the time. You need to let the sword charge before you do the hook shot to
Yeah.
make sure you don't poke them. It's the same reason why I don't do it, because I always mistime it as well. So it's definitely something to practice if you want to do it, but it's not something you want to do normally. So it's yeah.
Yeah, I'm not interested in doing that. I was trying to put off as many things as I could, but you know, you're in a race, you gotta go. You can't just sit back and scour everything for the swords. So I think I looked a little bit too much, but it would have been good if I found it, because then I definitely would have had a leg up.
For sure.
Yeah, as far as we know, the two swords you found were also the two swords eLmaGus found, so we have no idea what the remaining two swords in this seat happen to be.
Nope.
Maybe I'll explore later. I'm kind of
Regardless,
interested now.
regardless, I think it's about time we cut the broadcast, or at least say our farewells before cutting the broadcast.
Bye.
It's definitely been a very entertaining watch, and I'd like to give a quick shout out to both our runners, eLmaGus and ZephyrBlayze. It was a joy to watch you two race, so give these two a follow. They've put on a great show.
Absolutely. And once again, we are doing so many races on the Speed Gaming channels and on ALTTPR Randomizer as well. There are now 6 active Speed channels. Speed Gaming 6 has actually had a race or 2. So definitely Speed Gaming 1 through 6, give them all a follow. And ALTTPR Randomizer 1 through 4, I believe, are all being used at the moment. So lots and lots of rando channels here. There are still so many players in this tourney. Way too many races to watch for everyone, but do your best and watch as many as you can, and we'll come back for another one very soon. So, until next time, this has been GamerCat.
And this has been the Dudes.
Have a great night, everyone.
Yes, great night, everybody.